that I'm blessed. It's a few L's and millions, so turn that loss to a...
Sean Moudry, welcome to the show, brother. I appreciate you being here, man.
Good to see you, man. It's been a bit.
I know. It's been a while.
Yeah.
I'll never forget when we first met. We were at Hacienda eating Mexican food. And I think I was just, with all of the success that you had seen, I wasn't sure what to expect. And I walked away from that lunch just thinking, man, what a great dude. Like that salt of the earth, nothing but great impressions from you every time I've met with you. And so for those of you that don't know Sean, Sean was introduced to the RE/MAX Hall of Fame by the age of 24 as one of the top producers, recognized over 15 years, I believe, as a top producer.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Realtor Magazine, 30 under 30 as a top producer for 15 years, recruited 115 agents in a single year, which is like, when I think about that, I'm like, Jesus, dude. So I want to dive into a lot of this stuff. Also the author of 2 books, 16 strategies for sales, and building a real estate brokerage.
That's right.
So welcome to the show, man. And
Thank you.
For those of you that, I mean, they got to know a little bit about you right there, but why don't you tell our listeners who you are and how you got into real estate at such a young age, what inspired that, and kind of your background a little bit.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. Well, the short story is I was exposed to real estate through Carlton Sheets. Right.
Okay.
And so, like, as a young man, I no different than probably some of you that are listening on here. I had a pretty difficult childhood, right? Like, my mom's bipolar schizophrenic. So, like, we moved around 50 times before I was 15 years old. And at 15, I was out on my own. I was in a little trailer up in Idaho Springs, right next to if you guys are familiar driving up I-70 and you see those trailers that are right past the old football field in Idaho Springs. I rented one of those trailers with 2 buddies of mine for $265 a month was our rent.
Jeez. And
worked at Bojo's Pizza from the time I was 14 till I was 21. And I set a goal at 15. I felt like I was abandoned. Like my mom moved away and I just kind of felt like I was worthless, right? And so I set a goal at 15 to make $1 million by the time I was 25. That was the goal. And I remember like sitting there thinking like, this can't be like just $1 million in stuff. Mm-hmm. Somehow I knew at 15, like there was a difference between having $1 million worth of stuff and having $1 million in net worth. And so I remember saying, no, it's got to be net worth. And so This
was at 15?
This was at 15. This? Yeah.
What, like, bring us into the, like, your head at that point, right? Because 15, I mean, you're young, you're not even an adult yet, but you're setting these huge goals, right, at the time.
It's not glamorous, dude. It's not glamorous. And, I've been coaching agents for probably 15 years now, and the top producers, the ones that are performing at the highest peaks, the ones that are really pushing themselves, they all kind of have the same common theme, right? So we're going to get dark, okay? So here is how it went in my head is I felt worthless, and I believed at 15 that if I had $1 million net worth, that I'd be valued, and if I was valued, I'd be loved. And if you unwind that, the problem is if I'm not loved, I'm worthless, and if I'm worthless, I should be dead. So it was make $1 million by 25 or kill yourself. That was the programming I put into that 15-year-old brain.
Man, that's that's pretty remarkable. I the reason I'm pausing is because as you're talking about worthiness, it's something that I struggle with, and I think that everybody has their thing that they struggle with, right? Yeah. It could be worthiness, but what happened, or unworthiness, but then what happens is you attach that feeling of unworthiness to something. It could be money. Yeah. It could be love. It could be
your spouse.
It could be your spouse. It could be a number of things, but then usually it finds itself in one of those things primarily.
Yeah.
And as you talk about this, that is exactly there's a system called intermatrix systems. They do work with this and talk about a lot of that comes from emotion as a child before you have the ability to communicate with anybody.
Yeah.
And so, but it's something that I've struggled with, and it's how did you end up getting around that?
Oh, I still struggle with it. Yeah. So, whew, yeah, we got deep fast, didn't we? You and I are both like shook up right now.
We're all crying.
We're gonna need a man hug after this. Okay, so the way it plays out, right? So I would love to tell you, like at 15, all of a sudden I started like knocking it out of the park. But remember, like I'm living on my own. I'm trying to go to high school, working in the restaurant. I'm working full-time in the restaurant, trying to bust my ass, still wanting value, wanting acceptance. So I'm performing at a high level in this restaurant. And at 17, I was the kitchen manager. I had 22 employees at 17 that worked for me. And the Bojos would ship me around to their other locations to have me fix their kitchens, right? At 17, 18, 19. At 19, I had more certifications than a health inspector, right? Like the health inspector would come in and go, "This is what's wrong with the restaurant." And I'm like, "You're wrong. Here, look at manual 43.2. Meanwhile, I'm failing out of high school, right? Like I literally graduated with a 1.78 GPA. But the truth is what happened is, nothing, I wasn't really applying it. I wasn't doing anything. And I graduated high school. I was going to Metro, and my high school girlfriend left me because she felt like I was on a path that wasn't going anywhere. And she wanted more for herself, as she should, right? And when she left, again, that feeling of abandonment set in again. And I was like, oh my God, like I am worthless, right? And that set back in. And I thought, I remembered that goal. So now I'm like 19, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. I have to show her that I can make this money. I have to show the world I can make this money. And one night I'm watching late night TV, and this is the 90s, right? And there's this guy, Carlton Sheets, right? And it was buy houses, no money down. And it shows him in front of this yacht and the helicopter with his sticker on it. He just stuck that fucking sticker on there and it peeled it off. Sorry, I cussed. So long story short, I get these VHS tapes. That's how to buy houses with non-qualified assumptions. And you have to go out and door knock and talk to real estate agents about getting people to let you assume their non-qualified assumable loan. And I started doing it, right? So I started going out and door knocking and everything. And in that process, I came across a real estate agent who was like, if you work this hard, you kill it in real estate. And for me, it wasn't never about, and it's still to this day, it's not about so much selling real estate as a career, right? For me, it's building the wealth, right? Owning investment properties, building the wealth. And for me, I'm kind of a teacher at heart, right? So, and then showing others how to do that. So I started working for her. I sold 72 homes my first year at 21 years old, between 21 and 22. I left her team at the time because we were running a team at RE/MAX back when RE/MAX wouldn't let you have teams, right? And I went on my own and as a RE/MAX agent, and I did 104 transactions my second year, 144 my third. I ran that for about 7.5 years at RE/MAX, and then I partnered with the number one agent at RE/MAX at the time, and we started up an independent brokerage, and there was like 6 of us. We're close.
Steps?
No, that was Marketplace Professionals.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before Steps.
Before Steps, long before Steps. And we closed 616 sides, dude, in like 2006, I think. 616 sides with like 15 of us.
So there's a couple things I want to dig into a little bit, but talk to us about, how many homes your first year? You said
72
homes your first year. I think about the energy that takes and the discipline. Take us through like what your day looked like. I know in your book you talk a lot about habits, but take us through what that looked like in the beginning and then how it evolved as you went from 72 to 600 with a small team. Yeah.
Well, I think, I don't believe in motivation. I think motivation is a farce. I believe in inspiration, right? Like if I get excited about something, I'm going to do it. I'm going to move forward on it, and I'm going to stay committed to it. But this idea that somehow I'm going to spark this little fire within me that's going to drive me through things, that's proven false for me many times. Okay. Because when it gets hard, motivation, this idea that somehow
wears off, right? It's temporary.
Yeah. Like I'm going to stoke this flame in me. Yeah. Like maybe, but I'm not a big affirmations guy either. I'm not like that, get up and rah power. I'm more of a, here's what I'm trying to accomplish. And if I accomplish it, then it's going to be, great. I'm still like I want to stand on the podium and jump up and down kind of guy.
Yeah, you want to be recognized. But was that inspiration that you had initially, was that like, I'm inspired to not take my own life, or I'm inspired because I believe that if I hit this certain milestone and $1 million, that I'll be loved? What inspired you at the time?
So tying it back to Carlton Sheets, the inspiration was, oh my gosh, because growing up the way I didn't know anybody who owned homes, right? We didn't never own a home. Actually, that's not true. My mom owned a home and never made a payment, and it got foreclosed on. So that was my reality of owning a home. But the people we grew up around didn't own homes. Like our homes had wheels on them. So for me, this inspiration was this idea not only that I could build wealth for myself, but I could, build generational wealth, right? That my kids wouldn't have to suffer the way I suffered. But the opposite side of that, as we call in coaching, we call it a switch cost, right? The switch cost is if I don't, then I'm worthless. If I'm worthless, I can't be loved. If I can't be loved, I should be dead. So that is the ultimate fuel that's pushing me to overcome any fear, right? Any obstacle that got in my way, I continued to push through. And I was so tied to this. This is crazy. Even though in my early 20s, I was my gross commissions were, close to 400. My take home is 220. I'm living in a $90,000 house, driving a used 4Runner, and I wouldn't even stop to order lunch because I didn't want to spend $7 on lunch because that money had to go towards building this net worth, right?
So you're just committed to that vision that you had.
Fiercely committed to it. Yeah. Yeah.
So did you have a typical schedule in the beginning? Because I feel like for me, when I think back to when I got into the industry, it was just, I don't know if I could even articulate habits, honestly. It was just because I didn't know enough about the business or sales to really develop that habitual construction. So it was just sort of massive action. Yeah. And I didn't know what I was doing, but it turned into results. So for you, was it massive action? Did you have sort of a playbook that you had created for yourself?
No. But also, for those of you listening to this, keep in mind, I was in my early 20s, right? I came from a restaurant industry where I was already working and going to school full time. And then when I wasn't going to school, I was still working there 50, 60 hours a week. So for me, I just transferred that work ethic into real estate. And we used to joke, we work full days. Right. It was 24 hours. Yeah. I remember my phone ringing because all of our ads ran to the phone in our house, right? Okay. And back then, you had home phone lines. That phone would ring at 11 o'clock at night. You woke up out of bed and you answered it.
What were you doing to prospect at the time?
It was running newspaper ads.
No kidding.
Yeah, I'm a marketer, man.
Tiny classified ads.
Seriously.
Remember?
Oh, yeah. Made a mint on it too. Yeah. My mortgage payment was $840 a month, and I was spending $7,000 a month on newspaper ads.
That's crazy. That's amazing.
But make it a grip of money, So I would love to tell you, that I had great habits, but the habits were just work all the time. Now, as I matured and my relationships started to fracture because, having kids and families and other commitments, that's where managing a schedule really came, managing schedules and habits really came in to be important. In my 20s, it just didn't matter. I didn't go out and party, I would go make $5,000 or Actually, I guess my commissions were like $1,500 back then.
Jeez, that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. What so in I think it was your sales book, the first one that you wrote.
Yeah.
You talk about how you had seen all this success.
Yeah.
But you would come home at the end of the day just totally wiped out, no energy for your wife or kids. Yeah, and frustrated and just you weren't happy.
Yeah.
Talk to us about what that was like at home, and you pulled out of the industry, I believe, and then kind of pivoted and went a different direction to join. I think was it KW at the time, or
so
it was like a team, one of the top teams or something.
Yeah, so I've pulled out a couple times. Yeah, I've had to reinvent a couple times, and that's not great for business, right? Like the key to business isn't success, it's survival. Like that's what I'm learning. Like, you stand on a plateau for a minute, but it doesn't last. Yeah. In 2000, so to kind of tie the bow on the goal at 25 before we get into that, here's the trap is at 25 years old in 6 months, I had my CPA sign off that I netted $1 million. Okay. In assets and savings and those kind of things. So, I like gave me that fulfillment, but then it did for a minute, but think about what it does though. So now you're certified net worth of $1 million. I think at the time I had maybe 5 properties that I had bought, because I had bought property every year. Like my managing broker said, you should be your own best customer. Buy a house every year. Right? Okay. Great advice, by the way. So I netted $1 million. He signs off. You have $1 million net worth, right? Because I needed that. Well, now what's the psyche say?
I have to do more.
Don't lose it.
Okay.
So in order to not lose it, you have to make more, right? So now you got to double it, triple it. So then I was on this path of like almost like 10x, right? So then it went to, how do I hit 2 million? How do I hit 5 million? How do I hit 20 million? So by 2006, right? 2006, 2007, I had 117 doors. I had 2 apartment buildings. I had houses in Alabama. I mean, I had 27 houses in Montbello.
Jeez.
It was crazy. And, and so you think life's great, but to your point is I'm leaving the house before my kids are awake. I'm getting home. They're already in bed. My kids we have an all pair that lives in the house. We have a beautiful house, 6,000 square foot with a swimming pool, 4-car garage, right? I have a 911. I've got my nanny drives a freaking Denali. Like I'm shopping for planes. I'm like, So here, like from the external, it looks like everything's great, right? But I'm stressed out, I'm miserable, and then the recession starts to hit, right? And money can hide a lot of problems, you know? Like when you're making, tons of money, you can hire the all pair. You can have a full-time house cleaner. You can go on those vacations, you go to the mountain house and pretend that everything's normal. And then when it starts slowing down and things start falling apart, and your relationships, fail and your family fails and all that, because I went through a divorce, went through the recession, had some other personal things that I can't talk about on here that happen. And then you're like, all that fear and doubt comes back, right? I'm a failure. I'm worthless. I never deserved it anyways. You're just a kid from a trailer park. What were you thinking? That, you don't deserve these things. To the point where I told you that the year prior, we closed 616 deals for me to walk into the office one day and say, I'm done. I'm never selling real estate again. And I just walked out. Is
that how you did it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Then at that point, it's survival, right? Like,
was that because of the kind of where your family life was at the time? You just realized you had to do something drastic, like it suddenly became not worth it because of the love for your family. Because I feel like for me, it's very difficult to, I think for anybody that's a high performer to want to achieve at that level, because it's really an addiction of more.
Yeah.
Right. And you constantly want to one up yourself. You like the recognition.
Yeah.
And also, to me, it's like money can hide a lot of problems, but it can also provide an amazing lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to shut that off. Right.
Yeah.
For me, it's so hard to shut that off. But you're right. When you do, or if the market has any, sort of persuasion and what you're producing, then it goes back to like, I'm worth it. I'm not good enough. I'm worth it. It's almost like your identity, right? So how did you raise your identity? And then do you feel like it got to a point where then you were just like falling back to who you believed you were originally and that you weren't worth it?
Well, it's interesting, and obviously you and I didn't plan to have this conversation, so this is really getting deep. But the truth is while I was having a lot of success, and really, in a lot of areas of my life was going very well, I would have dreams of living in one of my rentals, and just being like,
it.
This is where it is. Like one of my not even a nice rental, like one of my crummy little rundown properties that I bought for 79 grand, and
because that's what you identified with.
Yeah.
Mentally.
Yeah.
Kind of like, this is who I really am almost.
This is who I am. Huh. Yeah. The what do they call it? The fraud what is it?
Not sure.
Imposter syndrome.
Oh, imposter syndrome. Uh-huh.
So here's how it unwinds, right? So the recession hits. It hits hard. I have a lot of properties. I didn't think I was over leveraged, but when you're making a lot of money, you can offset some losses, and people think that real estate's liquidable. Yeah, it's not in a recession.
Not always. Yeah.
I had properties that, I had owned for here's the problem during a recessionary period when you have too many properties. And I say this to people all the time that are like, oh, I want to buy 50 houses or 100. And I'm like, I would have just stayed with 12 and paid them off, But the problem is in a recessionary period, you sell the ones that you bought early that have the equity that are cash flowing $800-900 a month. You sell those to pay for the pigs that you bought recently that weren't quite a good a deal. And so then you end up with a bunch of okay properties instead of properties that actually are make sense, right? From a cash flow equity position. And then you come out of the recession and you're just like, okay, these things are breaking even. I'm just going to unload them now because I don't have the bandwidth or stress, right?
But then you couldn't.
Well,
right?
as you kind of come out like 2011, 12, 13, you could start selling them. I paid Chase Bank $216,000 for 9 years on a property that I shorted. Yeah, a house I built, man, and it was worth money, and then all of a sudden, it was worth about $880. I sold it for $380.
I was right there with you. I mean, I didn't own as much property as you did, but I had 9 rentals. This was in California.
Yeah.
And I was, how old was it? 25, maybe 26. I was making awesome money. But when you're like you said, when you're making good money, you can satisfy some of those losses, but then all of a sudden the banks kind of stop lending money. I'm like, well, shit, my income's non-existent practically at the time. Now I've got all these properties that I'm writing, some of them maybe $500, some couple grand to offset the difference. And, I foreclosed on all of them. Yeah.
I went from taking home about $4.25, $450 to $60.
Yeah. Yeah.
And meanwhile, I still have all the cars, all the house payments, multiple houses, and then all the investments. So, And then going through divorce, like you just check out. Like there was a point where a friend of mine called me and he goes, dude, you have a house that's going up for sale. He's like, you owe $60,000 on that house. Why aren't you selling it? And I said, I don't care. I don't care. Now, today I care. I would love to have that house.
For sure. You make a different decision perhaps. But yeah, when you're going through a divorce, I mean, it's so emotional. You don't care about any of the financial stuff because it's all unlikely to get out of it anyway.
Now, here's the good side of it, and here's the transition, and this is interesting because like I am not a religious person at all, right?
Okay.
Like I love to have religious conversations. Like I love talking about it, but for me, like I don't necessarily believe that there's a consciousness that says, hey, you're a good person, you get a green light. You're a bad person, you get a red light. Nor do I think that I believe that there's somebody that says, hey, I'm going to come up from the depths of the earth and influence you in a negative way, right? Now, I do believe in energy and I do believe in connectivity, right?
Okay.
So I just don't think the human mind has the capability to really understand it. So we make up a story that makes sense to us.
Sure.
You know, so, but after saying that, I am in the depths of despair, right? And I'm laying in bed and I'm thinking like, okay, I have to do this because, you know, at this point I'm, you know, divorced or separated. And I say, I have to do this because I'm a father. I got to take care of these kids and I am worthy because of my kids. And then I thought, I'm going to put my worth on my children. Like they're going to bear that weight. They can't bear the weight that I'm feeling, right?
Sure,
That's not fair. So then I thought, okay, well, I am because, and I knew I couldn't attach it to money anymore because money comes and goes. And that was the problem is I attach my worth to this money and then the money goes and now I have no worth. So then as I unfold it, I get down to I'm worthy because I am, right? Because I am one with the universe or I am one with God or I am one with something. I deserve to be here no different than anybody else, right? Because I am, right? And when I made that connection is when I was finally able to slowly dust myself off and get back up and believe in, you know.
So would you call that a spiritual connection that gave you that realization at the time? Because I was going to ask you right before you said that, how did you determine you were worthy, even without the money?
It was, you know, I was talking to an agent the other day. We were talking about this, and I've worked with him before in the past, and I literally had to fire him because he just wasn't like committed. And now he came back into my life again. He's working with me, and he's a different human, right? And I'm like, what changed? And he goes, my mom got sick. I had to go take care of her. She's struggling. She's kind of going through like end of life syndromes or symptoms. And he said, I had to face, what did he say? It was so good. Basically face the fire, right? I had to face the fire and walk through it. He didn't say that, but it was similar to that. Like but the fire is yourself, right? You have to face yourself and walk through it. And he says, once I walked through, I knew what I had to do. And that's what it resonated for me as I was like, I remember doing that. I remember being that and saying, I am worthy. It's okay. And I had to face that truth for myself because I think in that moment, that was the decision, right? Am I going to take my life or am I going to stand up for myself? Right.
You can tell that's super emotional for you, man. So I appreciate you sharing that. But this is the type of shit that people need to hear because there are a lot of people seeing a lot of success right now, and there's a lot of people struggling. And I think worthiness plays a huge role in it. And so I appreciate you sharing it.
I know more men right now, and I don't know what it is, but I know a lot of men, anywhere from 35 to 60 right now, that are super struggling emotionally right now. Like and it does come back to this, like my life's not lining up with what my expectations were, what my expectations that I had for myself or my family had to me. And I think there's a lot of us that are hurting, you know, and I'm sure there's other people, you know, I'm sure women and, you know, kids and a bunch of people are facing that, but it just seems to be really common right now.
Yeah. So what do you do when you're in a market like we're in? You've now taken on this new role, fairly new. You've been there for what, a year?
Starting over, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'll never forget when I walked in there and they're like, yep, I had to let her go and I had to let him go. And I'm like, you're cleaning house, but sometimes that's what it takes, right? And so what challenges are you seeing with taking on this new role of growing a brokerage and recruiting?
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of this stuff is stuff that you're used to, but kind of a different time. Is it much of the same, or like what's changed with your approach?
Oh, that's such a good question. So to just kind of recap, so my path went to becoming a team leader for Keller Williams, which is kind of that head coach recruiter, right? And I did that from 2010 to 2012. And then I became a coach, and then I started my own brokerage in 2014. Then I did that. And then I went through another cycle. Let's call it a cycle.
Okay. Yep.
Down cycle.
Yeah.
And so now, like, it's funny, I came back to Keller Williams in 2020 and I had lots of opportunities. You know, I had opportunities to go back into coaching with MAPS coaching. I had opportunities to go into regional leadership, because by the time I had left and come back, my peers were now running the company, right? Mm-hmm. So they're like, dude, come work with us. Like, my friends are literally the top people at Keller Williams today. And I said, I don't know if I have the skills to run a Keller Williams office today, because the market's changed and the way the offices are run. I said, so for me, my confidence level, for me to be able to step into a higher role or know even where I want to go within the organization, I feel like I need to run a market center again. I need to start over. And for leadership at Keller Williams, it all starts at the market center level. If you can run a market center at a high level, the keys of the kingdom are yours. I mean, the president of the company is an ex-team leader, right? Like, this is the path to the leadership within the organization. So I just knew I had to start over again. So what I was doing this time is bringing all of my experience into the place. But this time my goal was not to build it around my efforts or my coaching or my ideas, really just following the models, and running a really high level, very professional market. Market center is what they call it, an office, and with highly productive agents. Like, we want to lead with productivity, right? Not, because you can't eat kumbayas, right?
Not personality. Yeah. Hey, but I want to talk about that because that's something else you talked about in the book. And I would imagine it still applies today. I know you're big into Myers-Briggs and personality. And I love studying that stuff too. Although I've never done Myers-Briggs.
Oh, we got to do it.
I know we do have to do it. I was looking at the back of or whatever chapter that was. And it's like, how many different?
16.
16, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah.
But it just goes to show you how in depth it can get. But there was a part in your book where you're talking about, you would think that, hey, I've seen all the success. I'm this A-type, like, overachiever personality, and now I'm recruiting, and so I'm going to try to recruit all of these same people.
Yeah.
But you kind of talk about how that doesn't really work because you need other personality types to run a great organization.
Yeah.
And so are you using Myers-Briggs I'm sure you're using it when you're interviewing or talking to people. Is there anything formal you do with Myers-Briggs?
Yeah, well, Keller Williams, Gary Keller has been really in tune with personality types for a long time, and he used to use a company called, now it's blanking on me, but it was called the AVA is what he used to use. And now he created his own personality assessment called the KPA. So we utilize that at Keller Williams. It's very similar to the Myers-Briggs. It doesn't give you quite as much understanding about why somebody does something. Like, Myers-Briggs is about how you think about the world. Like, do you believe it's okay to lie, right? You can pick that up on the Myers-Briggs if somebody will lie. Yeah. And
what if they're lying about that though?
Well, exactly. And not
picks it up.
Not only like will they lie, but what things will they lie about, right? And the other personality assessments don't so much pick that up. But they give you enough indicators, like from a coaching standpoint, of guiding them to what is going to be their best lead generation strategy, guiding them to where their blind spots are going to be, where they're going to need help. For instance, like a lot of high-level agents that are really good at building their businesses based off of personality and relationships, they really struggle with the admin and process side, right? And a lot of them are control freaks. So they really struggle with letting go of that, and that holds them up, right? And so it's coaching them on areas that they can let go and be okay.
Okay.
We're not letting the rope go. We're just putting slack in it. Right? And teaching them that it's okay to scale. Because like to the point about like, how did I do 72, 104, 144? I never did a CMA myself. Like I didn't do a CMA the first time for like 9 years in the business before I actually created my own CMA. And I was like, this is stupid. Why am I doing this?
Were you doing all those appointments yourself? For the listings or to get the buyer?
It depended.
To work with you?
Yeah, it depended on the client source. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there was definitely ones where, I would pick up the file from the office, go out, do the listing presentation. I'd turn it back into my admin. She would manage it. And there was some where I'd show up at closing and say, hi, my name's Sean Moudry. I was your agent.
Did you like being more involved or less involved?
That is a good question. I am not great with relationships. Like I have
Really?
I have 4 friends. I just lost one, so I'm interviewing for another one. He didn't die. We just got
You're
into
interviewing
it. So,
for another one. Got it. Good.
yeah,
Good.
I've had the same 3 friends or 4 friends for 20 something years. Like for me, like I'm not the agent that's going to show up at your birthday
Are
party.
you introverted?
No, so in the Myers-Briggs, I'm an extroverted big picture thinker. So like I love to talk big ideas, teaching, coaching, those kind of, love it. I do that all day long. But my introverted preference is like research and writing, right? Like I want to sit down, I want to research a topic in a deep level, and I like to write. That's why I blog, right?
Okay.
Gives me that. I have no interest in, like, the fact that I'm coming to your party,
dude, I gotta be honest. When you're like, "Hey, we're in," I was like, "Really?" I'm glad you guys are coming.
Yeah,
and it'll be great to see Heather too.
Part of the reason is Heather loves that stuff. She loves that stuff. But for me, like, I'm like,
I'd rather be at home.
Oh yeah,
I'm the same way, dude.
In a hoodie.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
It makes me nervous thinking about having 60 people at my house. I'm just like, how am I going to connect with all these people?
Yeah.
But so that introverted side that likes to research and write. Yeah. But then being a big thinker and coaching, which by the way, I've gotten just a glimpse into Sean's coaching, and I can tell you that this dude knows what he's doing, and you have a way of doing it that really gives people dignity and just gives them the belief that they can do it. But you're coming in with such structure, and you almost have to be very analytical, I feel like, in order to be a great coach, because everyone's so different. What part, walk us through like what you do as a coach when you're meeting so many different people and how you sort of create, because it's not a one size fits all.
No.
Right? You talk about that in the book, but how do you create something that's specific to them?
Well, that's a great question. And that's honestly why I didn't scale my coaching business. Like at one point I was ranked top 20 coaches by Inman News in the real estate industry. And I've coached high-level mortgage brokers, as you know. I've coached title reps. I've coached even businesses outside of real estate. Other than, I realize I can't coach manufacturing because the whole manufacturing process is bonkers.
Yep.
But the challenge with the way I coach is it's really hard to train another coach. So like if you look at these other coaches that are like, hey, I'm going to coach you on social media marketing and how to dominate that. That's a very structured thing that they're coaching you to. And so once you get the framework for that, you can teach other coaches. The way I coach, to your point, is much more of a consultative, like what are you facing? What obstacles are you overcoming from an interior perspective, like between the ears. It's super hard to train.
How much of it do you think is fixing that versus the actual like tactics of execution? Like if you had to break it into a percentage, how much of it do you think is internal work, mindset, being healthy? You talk about, I think you word it differently, but you talk about kind of the thought cycle, right? And
the success
thoughts
cycle,
create behaviors and emotions. But how, like if you were to give a percentage, how much of it do you think is internal work that you have to coach on versus the actual tactics? And how many believe, so if you were to meet somebody and say, not that you would approach it this way, but hey, 70% of your problem is internal work that we have to figure out. 30% is the actual tactical execution of it. And they go, that's not true. I'm fine.
Yeah, that's exactly what they would say.
I know. But because personally, I think, I forget who said this quote, but if a man is right, his world will be right.
Yeah.
And I think so much of it is that. And then there is a part of like knowing what to do and executing, but I think more of it is just being right up here energetically.
Yeah. I mean, obviously like in real estate's relatively simple. We way overcomplicate it.
Oh, for sure. And it's gotten worse too, right? Because there's so many shiny objects that promise you're going to get rich if you sign up for this lead source or whatever. And
we make it so much harder than it needs to be. And I think that's where most agents is they get off track. So I would say the reality is probably 80% is the way you're thinking about the situation or thinking about yourself within the situation. Like one of the biggest problems I think most agents make is when they think about their real estate career, they think about themselves. When I coach an agent, I say your business is a separate entity of you. It's like raising a child. Like you want more for your child than you want for yourself. You want your child to have more success than yourself. And when you're raising a child, you're going to invest money into that child, right? You might invest it into coaching lessons for baseball or their college education or whatever it is, a better bat. So when they're playing baseball, they hit it 3 inches farther than the other kid, like whatever it is, you're going to invest time and money into your kid, and you got to invest time and money into your business. But when you identify yourself as the business, okay, then it's what do I want to do? What do I want for myself? It's not you, right? Like the founder of Subway doesn't go, I am Subway, right? He goes, we need to paint the store, not I need to paint myself.
What an interesting perspective, man. Like you're so spot on with that. Keep going.
Yeah. So the point is once you learn how to separate it from yourself, then it's what does the business need? I am a player within the business. So I might be the lead listing agent. I might be the ISA, like some of these real estate agents that are running really high level businesses, they operate as the ISA and they're sending agents out on the appointments, right? So, which I did for a long time. That was one of my favorite businesses is I would do the marketing, the leads would come in, I'd have a conversation with them. I'd say, great, you're going to meet with Susie at Tuesday at 10. I didn't leave the office. And I was thinking about that today. I was like, why didn't I go back to that business? That was a great business.
How much of it do you think is today marketing versus sales? Like if you had to pick a skill to get great at, what skill do you think trumps currently?
Well, I'm going to flip it around a little bit differently.
Okay.
I think the biggest mistake that we make as coaches inside of the real estate industry is we teach and coach agents to build their business around their personalities. Meaning if you can handle the objection, if you can smile, if you can show up on time, dress the right way, say the right things at the right time, you're going to be successful. The problem with your personality is it's not scalable. So this is why agents get stuck when they hit about 15 to 20 transactions a year. They get stuck because it's built on their personality. And agents that perform at a high level, like I was talking to an agent this morning, she closed over 100 units last year on her personality, right? They work all the time, all the time. Like 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Yeah, they're making great money. Yeah, their margins are amazing. But do you want that life? I don't. So what I think is marketing is, right, a leverage point for prospecting, right? Because if you're doing good marketing and your phone's ringing, you still have to follow up with those calls. You still have to have those conversations, or somebody does. So it's a leverage point for it. I do believe prospecting and relationships are important to the business, but I think it's if you're managing your relationships correctly, you're going to get about 30% of your business from referrals, right? Mm-hmm. You should get about another 30% from your activities, whatever that is. Okay. Your networking, B2B relationships, prospecting, whatever that is, right? Okay. That's outbound stuff. And then 30% should come from marketing, right?
Okay. Yeah. What kind of marketing are you doing right now?
We have radio ads running right now, which is super expensive, but they're high intent, right? So our cost per closing.
Can you tell us what the radio ad says right now?
Oh yeah,
it's great. What the hook is?
Yeah. So it is right now. The one we're running says you need a real estate agent with options. If you're looking for somebody to offer you, we can provide cash upfront to help you repair your home. We can make you a cash offer on your home, or we can list and sell your house in 14 days or less. Right. So we just come in with the full Monte options. Yeah, it's good.
How's the ad performing?
Slow. Yeah. I mean, all marketing is a little slower right now because there's less motivation to sell. So our cost per sale right now is about $3,000, but our average commission is close to about $16,000. So it's still profitable. Works.
Yeah.
And for those agents that are listening that are thinking that's a lot of money, I just want you to think, if I sent you a referral today of somebody who's ready, willing, and able to list their home, you'd probably pay me.
Yeah,
what, 30%?
Yeah, no, I pay at least $3,000.
No, 30% of 16,000.
Yeah, sure.
Is what is that? $5,000? Yeah. $5,500. You pay me $5,500. I just got this same lead for $3,000. It's the same money.
Well, and you're paying more with like relo companies and stuff.
Oh, it's horrible.
And you're still willing to do it. Yeah, just to get the business.
And then we're also doing a lot of direct mail still. So we're still doing direct mail. Same kind of thing. Either cash offer, where we'll make you an offer on your house. Or we're mailing into areas where we have specific buyers that are looking, and we'll say, hey, we have buyers that are looking for your home. So we're doing those. Same thing. Those are about $900 per closing is what we pay on those, but the response, in general, is down. Right? It's slow right now. Yeah. Still profitable though.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So give us some tactical stuff, and I want you to talk about both on the real estate side and the mortgage side, since you've coached mortgage lenders before.
Yeah.
But if you were to have to name 3 things that realtor, and this is a generalized statement, but that you see a lot of, that a realtor is either a misuse of time or energy, or they're not executing. What are 3 things that you think somebody could do, today or pretty quickly that could shift their trajectory?
Okay. Again, 80% is mindset, right? Like we just talked about this. Yeah. So I want you to think for a minute and maybe you could pretend you're a real estate agent, right?
Yep.
No
problem.
And be nice.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Got my realtor hat on.
You're a realtor. Do you believe that 2021 is a better market than today? Honestly.
Honestly, do I believe 2021 is a better market than today? I'm just going to say yes. 2021 is a better market than today.
Okay. Tell me 3 reasons why 2021 was a better market.
Lower rates, more affordability. There was more of an energy. It was easier to get buyers to move and pull the trigger because there was this fear of loss in the market that weren't going to be able to get the rate of the house because they had 10 other offers on the property. I can make arguments for both sides, but I'm going to take the bait on that.
I'm going to help you. No, you answer exactly how I just did this exercise the other day in front of a room of about 35 agents. And we did a whiteboard and we wrote 2021. If you lead real estate agents, you have to do this exercise. This was, and I saw something.
It's an awesome question.
It's such a good one.
Because like we were talking about before the show, the activity is basically the same today as it was back then.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, so I didn't come up with this exercise. I watched Brian Smith, we call him Yoda because he's like, what do you think you should do? So I'm like, why don't you just tell me what to do? But I saw him do this exercise and I thought, oh my gosh, this is so good. So to the point of those things being better than today, is why your results are bad today. Because if you believe that 2021 was better than today, then how are you transferring? Remember, I said motivation is BS, right? We want to inspire our clients. Why isn't your buyers signing agencies with you? Why aren't they moving forward? Is because you're not excited about today's market. And you're not excited, and so you're not seeing the opportunities. And today's market is where people, and I'm not kidding, people are going to build massive wealth in the next 18 months that are going to change their lives.
Oh, for sure.
Forever.
For sure. And it's like, how I really feel is that it's a way better market now than almost any time I've ever been in the industry. Certainly for buyers. There's so much leverage, right?
So much leverage.
And I think you have the ability. I mean, look, what I say is, if you get into a house, even if your rate's at 7.5% and you're afraid that that's a high rate and they go up, you're stoked that you got a 7.5%. Now they're at 10, right? So you lucked out. But if they go the opposite way, then you're refinancing.
And here's the thing is, like, we were talking earlier that I got in with Carlton Sheets tapes, how to buy houses, no money down. And I had somebody one time tease me and they go, yeah, that doesn't work. And I'm like, I bought many, many houses with no money down. Like I've done wraps, I've done owner carries, I've done all kinds of things. I bought businesses.
Work, and it works more now.
Well, that's going to be, that's my point, is I'm closing on Thursday on a VA assumption. I'm not a veteran.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I'm not occupying it. I'm $6,000 out of pocket, taking over their 4.99 rate, essentially no money down. But if you believe that 2021 was a better market where you got to bid up $100,000 over the market, ask somebody who bought their house in 2021 how their equity position is right now.
Dude, I share this story all the time. I had this client, I'll never forget, he was a doctor. And this was like the peak. I mean, there must have been 30 offers on this property, massive appraisal gaps, right? That's another benefit about it now, is you don't have to worry about the appraisal gap in most cases.
Or waiving inspection.
But anyway, bottom line is this guy paid, the property was listed. I want to say it doesn't matter, but you'll get the point, but let's call it $585,000 it was listed for.
Yeah.
What do you think he had to offer in order to beat out all the other offers on the table and actually get the house?
Well, I want to say 100 over, but I'm assuming you're going to go higher than that.
Dude, it was almost 200 over.
That's crazy.
It was almost 200 over. He gets the house. So I tell people today, I'm like, listen, if you think rates are high right now, I promise you, if you call that dude and you say, I'll trade you, he'd take that swap in a heartbeat. He'd much rather take 200,000 less and pay 7.5 or 6.5 or whatever the rates are at.
Now, arguably, and I understand there's people on here that are thinking that's BS because of my house, my rate. Yeah. If you're not moving, you're fine. Yeah. But we have one that's going on in our office right now where she bought it in 2021, knowing it had structural damage. She was using it as a short-term rental. Short-term rental rules change. Now she has a property that's not cash flowing.
And it's harder to sell.
And it has structural damage. It's a short sale.
Yeah, jeez.
We're shorting
people were
it right
willing
now.
to overlook that stuff. They didn't even care. Yeah, just forget the whole inspection.
Forget it. Airbnbs, everybody. Let's all house hack.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. I have nothing against. I think house hacking is amazing, and I think it's brilliant. And I think if you're an agent and you're specialized in house hacking, do it. Do it. However, today's a better market to do that in than 2021.
Dude, so there's this class that I teach. And I think so many sellers out there, this is maybe helpful for some of those agents that are like 2021 is better than now.
Yeah.
It's because so many of us are focused on the specific transaction. In other words, I'm a seller, or I would be a seller, but I bought my house at 3.5%. In order to buy a house now that where it'd be considered an upgrade at 7%, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing on mortgage applications is 90% of people, 30 to 50,000 in unwanted consumer debt.
Yeah.
Plus, in a lot of cases, 1 or 2 car payments, right? $600, $700, $800 a month.
Yeah.
So when you actually look holistically, and this is where I think agents, if they could get behind the position of leading their client instead of just looking at the specific transaction and being convinced by them that it doesn't make sense, having a great way to position, well, great, but is there any unwanted consumer debt that you have?
Yeah.
And when you look at the math, you could increase purchase price 300, 400, 500,000, go from a 3.5 to a 6.5 or 7.5, and pay off debt because they've got a lot of equity.
Yeah.
Right. Pay off debt, have enough money for the down payment, keep money in savings, and your new monthly expense is about the same, in some cases less than what it currently is right now. And they're out of debt. They improve their credit score. So there's a way to get into that 20-year home. But I think agents are fearful of walking through the math.
Well, I think too, there's a cultural shift too, where it's like, and I have adult kids, right? So I see this with them where it's more attractive to have the lifestyle than it is to be, let's call it house poor, have a high house payment and live poor, where generationally you have to make sacrifice to build wealth, right?
Sure.
There's no wealth without sacrifice, and there's no wealth you're not going to work your way to wealth. Like you're not going to work I don't care if you're making $80 an hour, you're not going to work your way to wealth. You know, you have to either invest in stocks, build a business, invest in somebody else's business, or invest in real estate. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. That's your only options to build wealth. Yeah. And to do any of those, you have to make a financial sacrifice. You have to take some of your income and put it somewhere where it's going to compound, right? So I think there's not a lot of people who understand or who are communicating to the renters that it's okay to make this sacrifice. It's actually noble to make this sacrifice. It's cool.
I agree with you. And every buyer presentation I do, there's something I take people through called the wealth accumulator. Yeah. And it's 4 pillars. And pillar 1 is everybody should own a piece of primary luxury real estate 3 to 7 times gross annual income. Yeah. Okay. I won't go too deep into why those are the numbers, but pillar 2 is having reserves, at least 25,000 in reserves, or 6 times your monthly survival number, right? Yeah. So if somebody's making, whatever, $500,000 a year and their expenses are 25 grand a month, they should have more than 25 grand in savings. Sure. But a lot of, especially first-time home buyers, they're like, well, man, I've saved up, doesn't matter the number, 50 grand, 100 grand. But if I buy this house and I'm going to not have any money. And it's like, but that's okay, because step 1 is owning a piece of primary luxury real estate. You're never going to save money faster than the wealth you can build in real estate. Yeah. So yeah, I agree, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough right now because the struggles that agents are facing. Well, we were having this conversation before we stepped into the room. Is you said, how's it going? I said, we're doing great. Like we're having a great time. But there's a lot of agents that are really struggling. Like I know people who their business is a third of what it was 2 years ago, right? And they're really struggling financially, but they're not embracing the market for what it is. They're looking at the market for what it was. And the ones that are really performing right now have shifted their focus, right? And they're focusing on the opportunities that exist today and not wishing it was something that it wasn't.
For sure.
And if you want to have success in real estate, if you don't want to go back to your previous job, like me making pizzas, which is still an option, they'll take me back. I've checked.
You have a portrait up at Bojo's.
I do. Yeah, I totally do.
Yeah, I've seen it.
I'm on the wall.
I'm like, fucking Sean.
I'm on the Hall of Fame. I'm on the Hall of Fame at Bojo's. But
that wasn't in your book. I didn't read about that.
I know. But that's an option, right? I can go back to making pizzas, or I can accept the market for what it is. And perform within the market that it is, right? And that's a choice, right?
So let's pretend that the perception is the market is worse. Okay. When the perception is that the market is worse, or the economy isn't doing as well, right? And inflation is up and now it's down, whatever's happening in the economy gives that perception. As a realtor, a mortgage lender, an entrepreneur that's running a business, is that a time to pull back, or is that a time to go all in with your budget, with marketing, with getting out there? Yeah. Right? Do you retract? And that side of things might say, well, that's a scarcity mindset, or do you go for it?
Okay, so this is obviously a deeper conversation, because the challenge is the market has shifted, and as the market shifts, your demographic shifts too. So you go from 2022, it was a very heavy migrationary market. People were buying, like literally, I was flying to Tennessee looking at properties. I'm going to buy a house down here. I'm going to Airbnb it, just like everybody else, right? I'm in Carmel, Indiana, looking at properties for Airbnb. I didn't buy it.
Where Kenna's from.
Yeah, I love it. It's beautiful there. We have a daughter there, right? So we're like, we're going to own an Airbnb. I wish I actually bought it. It was a cute little house. But here's the thing: is people were flying around, and today that's not happening, right? We're not seeing people going into other markets to buy Airbnbs like we were. So the demographic has changed. So to your point is, yes, you can gain market share during recessionary times. You just have to be super cautious. So you hold every single dollar accountable. So I told you we're running radio ads. We haven't run radio ads in years, like many years. It's been years and years since but we were doing a lot of direct mail. Our direct mail budget got equal to the point where we could be on radio. I know from experience that people calling on the radio are high intent. They're not calling because they're curious. They're calling because they're selling, right? So you go out, you do your presentation. Your conversion rate is really high on radio. Conversion rate on direct mail is a lot lower, right? You get a lot of people who ask questions. They're like curious. Is this BS?
Or they have 10 postcards from people.
Yeah. Or is this fraud? Like you get all kinds of random stuff, right? But for radio, they don't, right? They don't question you, right?
It's trustworthy somehow.
Yeah, well, you have the radio personality say, you're great. And they go, okay, you're great.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you test and you hold accountable. That's the solution. You come up with an idea, you put it out, you test it, and you hold it accountable. Now, the key, though, is you have to think of the demographic you're speaking to. What message is going to resonate with that demographic? And then you have to mail to enough of them to get a result. So an example is on this direct mail thing. The direct mail is, for about 1,000 mailers, you're going to get 15 to 18 responses and about 3 appointments. And from 3 appointments, you'll get 1 listing. Okay. Now, I know those ratios because I do a lot of direct mail.
How many direct mail pieces did you
For
say?
1,000.
1,000. Okay.
1,000, 15 to 18 responses, 3 appointments, 1 listing signed. Okay. Pretty consistent. I mean, it's pretty consistent. It's kind of a no-brainer. Now, this is a specific demographic to a specific message. This isn't, I'm the greatest real estate agent in 80228. This is, your house is vacant. Would you like an offer on your house? It's a very specific message to a demographic, right? But the ratios are very steady. The problem is agents tiptoe in and they'll send 200. Well, your response rate on 200 is pretty much 0.
Right.
You got
to do it 5 times to maybe see 1.
Yeah, you do 5 times to get 18 responses. You'd still get the same 18, but those 3 appointments would come out so late that it would feel like it's not working.
Like it's not working.
Right. Yeah. And I learned this from print mail back with the newspapers, right? I would run 1 ad, and 1 ad might get me 10 calls in a month.
What's it costing to send 1,000 postcards? Or
they're like 92 cents out the door.
Okay.
Yeah. Having a service do them.
All right.
That's not bad.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
No.
Because remember, we're $900 per closing. Worth like $330 an appointment on direct mail. So
I like that. So hold every dollar accountable.
Every dollar.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good.
Yep. Measure it every month. Like look at it every single month. Is this returning? Now with marketing, you've got to give it a little bit more time.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you decide how much time you give something? Like how much, if I'm an agent and I say, okay, I've got money in the bank. I want to come in full steam ahead. Yeah. I'm happy to budget for 1,000 postcards. What, a month, a week? How often do you send them?
It depends. It depends on your budget.
Sure.
Right. But just know your ratios, know what your ratios are expected and hold them accountable. So my rule on marketing is I want 4 times my money back in 6 months.
Okay.
So so pending and closed, right? So if I've got listings pending.
Sure.
Right.
You'll count it.
I'll count it. Yeah. So pending and closed.
Is that with all marketing? Like even radio ads, same metric? Cool. Good.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Right now, radio, we're averaging 1 to 1. Like we're getting about 100% out of our money every month. So but it's a commitment. Like it is, radio is next to TV, radio is pretty much the most expensive commitment you can get.
I know we're running short on time because you've got an appointment coming up, but I guess last question, like I'm sure you get a ton of calls from mortgage lenders, right? And I'm sure you get to hear all of the stories from the agents that you work with. And what is an approach that you've seen working right now?
Oh, yeah.
Or is there an approach where if you were a lender that you would take that you're pretty sure would work?
Oh, yeah, of course.
What is it? For that, you need to hire Sean for a coach.
That's right. No, I'll give you the secret. Okay, so if you're a mortgage lender and you're listening to this, okay, don't call an agent and say, try me. Because here's what you're setting up. Here's the expectation that you're setting up. They're not going to try you with their best client. They're going to give you garbage. And now you're set up to fail because they already know that this lead is impossible to close with somebody else.
But if you can do it.
Yeah. Here's my garbage, right? So, and then the other thing is real estate agents don't need a dependent, right? So if you're coming to them saying, hey, send me a lead, help me out. Like you're a parasite at that point.
That's annoying. It's
super annoying. And they have kids, right? They're raising kids. They got responsibilities. Don't come at it like that. So what I recommend, and this works for title too, right? It's the same conversation. It's hey, I see you closed, how many homes did you close last year? You closed 25. That's awesome. What's your goal this year? Oh, they always double it. I'm going to go to 50. Yeah. Do you know what kind of systems you need to double your business?
Right.
Like you need much bigger systems, right? They didn't build a Golden Gate Bridge to hold 10 cars. You know what I mean? It's like you need big systems to double your business. So, but they always double it. And you say, oh, that's awesome. If I can help you get those extra 25 deals, would you share those with me? Not, you can continue using your other lender. I understand they're probably not sending you business. They're not helping you. They're not coaching you. They're not working with you. You can continue to send those deals to them. If I can help you build business, just share the business I help you build with me. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'm in.
That's your conversation.
Yeah, simple.
That's it.
Okay, last question. Then
you're like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Then you hire Sean.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's always about leading with value, right? And for those of you that think that Sean's full of shit, it's like, listen, how many times have you had a realtor where they're like, well, if you have any buyers or sellers, make sure you send them my way. And it's like, you don't even have to ask that, right? Because if they trust you, if they like you, if they feel like you're going to help support their business and add value, they're likely going to refer you anyway.
Right.
So it's adding value. And so the follow-up question to that is like, if a lender is prospecting a realtor, right? And how much is too much? And like, what's the appropriate amount of?
Well, this will probably shock you. Okay. I'm pretty well known in the industry, right? I've been around. I know a lot of lenders. Maybe 4 times a year somebody reaches out.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? They're afraid, they're unworthy.
I think what they think is, and this is true for those that are real estate agents, if you're prospecting any B2B, right? Like we talk about a lot, we talk about prospecting divorce attorneys, bankruptcy attorneys, those kind of things. You have to go through with the understanding that they already have a relationship, right? And that relationship's probably okay. This works for home builders too. You know, like how did I close 616 deals? As I had relationships with four home builders, all of their list assists, all of their builder buybacks, all of their stuff. They already had relationships with other agents before I walked in the door. I just had to build enough value where they saw that they could refer me in addition to their other agents, right? It wasn't like I had it exclusive. I was sitting in meetings with Scott Nordby half the time. Like, then Scott was a way better agent than I was. Like, he was much better.
Good old Scott Nordby.
He's awesome. So here's what I would say is approach it with the understanding that they already have a relationship and you're not there to circumvent it. So the question is, who do you currently refer your business to? Right? Very simple. If you're listening, write this down. Who do you currently refer your business to? What are they doing great? What do you love about them? Okay. That's going to teach you what they value, right? It actually has really nothing to do with what the person's actually doing. They're going to tell you what they value. If the person could improve on something, what would that be? Right? 9 times out of 10, it's going to be communication. Right? They don't communicate enough. Rarely is it follow through because they're not going to refer somebody who's not following through. It's going to typically be communication. Who do I need to become, or what do I need to do to become that person for you in the future?
Great question.
Very soft. It's not like, hey, I'm going to push this person out of the way, or I have any expectation of you removing it. Just tell me, is there a future?
Who do I need to become? What do I need to do? That's fantastic.
Yeah, to become that person for you. And here's what they'll tell you. Oh, that person's my wife. I would have to get divorced. And you're like, okay, great. I'm moving on. I respect it. Who else do you know that's looking for a relationship that I'm looking to build? Or they say, this person's going to retire in 5 years, right? So keep in touch with me, right? Show me that you can do these things and you won't do those things, and I'll refer you. And then the last is, they might say, I have some business that I can actually refer you. And if you do a great job, then maybe I can share the business with you, right? And then you're in.
I think those are great questions when you have the meeting or when you have their ear for that period of time. I think a lot of it up until that point, though, is really rapport. And even I would say this to real estate agents, right? With, old leads, dead leads, prospects. I think so much of it has to do with rapport and timing. Rapport and timing. Like a client might have a friend that's a real estate agent, but they really haven't talked to the friend in 6 months or a year. Meanwhile, you come along, you're in rapport with them, and you happen to stay in front of them often enough. Likely, you may have a shot at interviewing for that listing if the timing hits. Right.
I have a really simple way to think about this, right? Because again, we say words like rapport, and it sounds good, but what the hell does it mean? We don't know. Here's what it means. Here's how simple because recruiting is the same thing. Recruiting agents is never about, I want you to join my company today, right? One, they might not know me. They might not like me, and they surely don't trust me, right? I just called them or met them, right? So my goal is only this. When I call, will they pick up the phone? Do they see enough value in me that when I call, will they answer the phone? And that's my only goal. Right. And if they don't answer the phone, then I'm not doing a good job. I need to do something else to show them value, either through email or text, because they won't answer the phone, to get them to answer the phone so we can maintain this relationship. And sometimes it takes years.
For sure.
Like when I got the VA account for the state of Colorado, I had every VA foreclosure in the state of Colorado. It took a year and a half to develop that relationship, right? Constant conversations about what's her kids going through at school and how she hates her coworkers. And then one day she calls me and she says, okay, you're in. And I'm like, oh,
and I think
awesome.
I think it's about knowing that the time you're investing is for the right individual or for the right account. Like we picked up a builder account recently. It took me 3 years. Right? 3 years for the builder account. But it's like,
and that's okay.
But I knew the builder. I liked the builder.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we could talk forever. But dude, seriously, thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate it, man.
This was great.
Where can people find you?
Well, the easiest, if you want to reach out on email, it's Sean Moudry at kw.com.
Moudry.
Moudry. That's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. If you want to talk shop, talk real estate. I love this stuff. Like I eat, sleep, and breathe real estate. So love it all.
Dude, I feel like we're kind of cut from, like we have similar paths and a lot that I can relate to you on, man. So anyway, it's been good getting to know you.
Thanks for the invite, dude.
Thanks,
Seriously.
brother.
All right.
Every time that I see a limit, I push right past it. Don't care if you got here first, the one to win is the last one standing. Say my life is like luck, nah, I had to plan it. The way I work is out of this earth. I can feel the momentum. Need it all, no fractions. Dream it, then I gotta have it in the booth like Tom Cruise. Whole lot of